Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video on male loneliness, part 2, cybertrucks, or toxic macho trucks, weaponized incompetence, and male navel gazing, and how that stops men from understanding women. Yeah, so this is the second part of a video uh, series that is of indeterminate length because of the I decided to do another video because there was a seemed to be a lot of response and engagement with the first one. So seems like something that multiple people said maybe you should do more of those. So this is number 2. um, and so in this one we'll focus on the a few other topics that are like directly pertaining to why the men's in general, why the men are so not not having social engagements, not having friends, not having romantic partners, etc. The previous video is I think it's 2 YouTube videos back on this channel. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna get into that. Also, what's up? Yeah, somebody's already lonely in the chat. But anyways, so why are so there's a bunch of things happening here. The yeah, so the Cybertruck was released obviously, but that's not, I'm not here to uh, promote nor to make money working for Cybertruck competitors, but it is definitely a macho vehicle that is being marketed to. It's definitely a male targeted marketing campaign, and there's a whole other thing I want to get into with like the marketing of vehicles and how vehicles, particularly in the last 100 years, have they've been important to societies and countries and the cultural norms within them, and then a lot of the modern powers, large, powerful, economically prosperous countries like the U.S., Japan, obviously, a lot of European countries, and then later Korea. Like the vehicle development has been like in tandem with the rise of these countries. Not necessarily always. That's not always necessarily a good thing, because there's better ways of doing transport. But but to kind of try to stay on track without going into the whole history of that, the vehicle marketing, the way that they sell vehicles, the way that vehicles have been sold to people, like the kind of ads that uh, the kind of ads that companies put out, which is it's really synonymous with the government and the culture itself, right? They kind of all work together and influence each other. And so like the this, I thought this was an interesting way to kind of start in from a different angle than the last time. We'll come back, of course, to the how does that what does that have to do with the male loneliness? Well, but the I think actually the nature of the modern vehicle marketing, which is that like if you look at a lot of modern vehicles, like one issue that you're seeing is that modern trucks, the it's actually like Holly had a link that pointed out that like the modern trucks, right, are actually the fronts are getting so big. Yeah, the hidden danger of big trucks is like there's many articles about this, but pickup trucks are getting larger and larger, becoming a hazard to pedestrians and drivers of smaller vehicles, right? So the vehicles are getting bigger and bigger. Like for example, the Jeep Gladiator recently hit and killed Eva Bhaskar near her suburban New Jersey home. She'd be taking a walk, etc., etc. So there's been a lot of these stories about people, the number of vehicular accidents, right? The number of vehicles hitting people is going up and up and skyrocketing. Now, why is that happening, right? Now, what does that have to do with male loneliness? Well, the reason why the vehicles are getting bigger, right, which is causing, like, if you look at this vehicle here, the visibility for these 50 new vehicles of the biggest heavy duty trucks, the distance between the height of the hood, right, which is part of like making a bigger engine, or at least making your vehicle seem as though it has a larger engine, right? That's a major reason for the loss of visibility. And so you can see that there's a child. If a child is walking in front of a car, like if a 7 or 8 year old is walking in front of one of these larger trucks, it can easily it has a higher probability of running a kid over, because you simply cannot see, right? Trucks at blind spots of 11 feet longer than those in some sedans, and 7 feet longer than many popular SUVs. The SUVs have also been getting higher as well, but the trucks have it almost looks like the truck almost looks like you're looking out of almost like a it's almost like a sunroof, right? The windshield of modern trucks almost looks like a sunroof. It's how angle is so shallow because the truck is getting so tall. Small children are especially vulnerable to front crashes, and so obviously this is a problem for vehicular crashes, right? It's a problem for car accidents causing a lot of deaths, right? But it's also but the reason why that's happening is because the trucks are being marketed towards men in a particular way, right? I try to find a picture of one of these new I'm probably not gonna find it. It's gonna start advertising to me. But there was an interesting article in Wired as well that it kind of goes to the same thing, which is that the designs of Elon Musk Cybertruck, right, which is it's part of this gigantification of the trucks. They're geared towards men, even though women. And another important statistic is that even though a lot of these modern designs are being targeted at men, and actually historically all the average vehicle, I think in this article it actually says that, I'm gonna try to freeze this frame before it does that again. The average vehicle is the average designer of any vehicle is the average designer of any vehicle is most likely to be a man. I think it's like 80 to 90% of all the designers are men. I like this one because it has it's got like the dude's arms coming out the car. But actually the majority of the purchasers, the majority of the vehicle purchasers are not men, right? So the majority of people who actually buy cars are women and trucks. It's actually like 60%. I think the statistic is 60% of all cars, all new cars sold are in the U.S. are being sold to women, or are being bought by women. Sometimes the women are buying cars for men because the men don't have any money, which is its own thing. So let me see if women. Yeah, 60% of all cars purchased are by women, and 80% of all car purchases are directly influenced by women. So it's almost 2/3 actually, right? So you have this there's a discrepancy there, but coming back to the truck thing, and so the truck designs are getting super macho and more macho because there's a handful of men at the very top of the pyramid, right? So the CEOs, the lead designers, right? Elon Musk, right? Is still a man, right? But he's designing cars that he wants to see. Like, I would argue the Cybertruck is basically the Cybertruck here is basically a 1990s video game like Deus Ex, which is his favorite game, and it's also my favorite game. It is a Gen X / Zennial 1990s video game manifestation in real life. It's like a low polygon, right? It's like a 200 to 300 polygon. It has just enough triangles on it. The Cybertruck, right? Cybertruck has just enough triangles. If you were to model it in, if you were to model it and drop it into Half-Life or Resident Evil 1 on a PlayStation, the Cybertruck has just enough polygons that it could probably make it in without crashing the system. You could put it into Unreal, or Quake, the Quake engine. I modded for Half-Life, right? You could have the crowbar wielding scientist, that in his jumpsuit running around and jumping in a Cybertruck, and it would probably work in the game, right? On a 66 megahertz Sound Blaster Live CD-ROM drive downloaded video game. You could run this. So the Cybertruck is a dude centric design in that sense. It's a Elon Musk centric design. It's a very Elon-y design to his particular techno cyber nerd tastes. That's why it's called the Cybertruck. But it's also a very they market it, right. So the Cybertruck was marketed as being able to hold a rocket launcher. That's one of the selling points, right? He just had his presentation recently, right? I'm trying to find a picture of him. He when he had his Cybertruck, it's supposed to be he unveils his electric, right? Starting at 39,900. Is it? I thought it was a bit more than that, but no, this is from 2019. It's a lot more now. It's Forbes' brilliant lessons from the Cybertruck. Let me see. Okay, so the vehicle represents large metallic trapezoid, starts at 39,000. So yeah, it is directly inspired by Blade Runner and The Spy Who Loved Me. So it's the CEO also previously suggested that demand for Tesla's pickup may be less than that for the company. He took a sledgehammer to the body and a metal ball to the side window of the Cybertruck. He shattered the window. It must surprise. But it didn't go through the glass. But he's supposed to have bulletproof. It was supposed to have bulletproof glass. That would be able to stop a 9mm handgun. So so Elon is the way he's been selling the truck is this is a truck that you can take into the apocalypse, right? Like if you get into a gunfight with 35 cyber ninjas, or if you're gonna play Call of Duty, in real life, and you go to the voluntary Israeli army into illegally occupied Palestine, you can survive 35 Hamas bullets at least, or maybe like a very slowly tossed bowling ball made out of foam, because part of there's a long reason why the truck failed that test, but it's marketed towards warfare, right? It's marketed towards this romanticized idea of having a super tough military, right, war based, right, I can take all of the gunshots and bullets, I'm gonna fire rockets from the back of my truck. I think he recently said that the rear of the Cybertruck is sturdy and strong enough to hold like a HIMARS rocket launcher, and you could fire like 7 rockets from it to decimate your enemies. It's like it's marketed as a war vehicle, right, which is a masculine. It's a very I would argue it's a very toxic masculine sort of car. The edges of the Cybertruck are actually extremely sharp in it. It's like it's not. Some countries actually have regulations because the sharpness of the edges can cause more damage and higher probability of death, right? When a vehicle is ramming into somebody, in a vehicle on human accident, right? And so all those sharp edges, some countries have it regulated against. The U.S. has no regulations apparently on the sharpness of the vehicle body plating and stuff. So, but it's actually like it. I mean,
it's a weird nerdy design that looks like a science. It looks like something from a RoboCop. You know, this, you know what it reminds me of is, also reminds me of the Aliens. The Aliens, um, the 1980s movie, the M577 armored personnel carrier. It reminds me of the armored personnel carrier from this nerdy sci-fi movie Aliens, right? Because it has all those sharp edges. We know what it is like it's from a time and it's from an era, right? And the sci-fi, when you give anything like lots of weird, unusual angles and like lots of like hexagonal patterns, there's these like signifiers of science fiction, right? Because obviously you could just put a tank, right? You could just put a modern, 1980s U.S. military personnel carrier. They have armored personnel carriers, right? But then science fiction designers, right? And Elon is just a giant nerd. He's about like trying to have like styrofoam and cardboard cutouts that you put on top of real cars that signify the future, right? And so anyway, well, but it's also it's a military science fiction, shorthand, right? It's the semiotics of space violence and space war, right? Which is, so anyway, but that's a lot of what's going. I think that's a lot of what the design behind the Cybertruck is. Part of it is I probably overthinking it a little. I don't think Elon thought that much. I think Elon just jotted something down on the napkin, and because of toxic capitalist patriarchal colonial hellscape that we exist in, his brain farts become multi-billion-dollar, multi-100,000 persons collective labor realities. That's really sad, but that's not what this stream is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about why men are lonely. But coming back to that, so the Cybertruck, like those the trucks in general, that where I was talking. Where's my like truck? Like, let's look at a 1990s Ford truck, right? So this is like a 1990s Ford truck, right? The Fords are a bit bigger, but it has like a reasonable the front of it is has a reasonable visibility, right? The hood is not almost up to your eyeball level, right? Now if you look at a 2023 truck, you can really see the difference, right? If you put these two side by side, right? Now look at this truck, right? Or this truck. Okay, now let's look at these. Where's my two trucks in the 1990s? And Fords are bigger than the Japanese trucks are smaller. Right? Nowadays, most people where we are in Hawaii, all the uncles, they drive like 1990s trucks because the only 1990s Toyota or like Nissan or something like that. The lesbians all drive Subaru for reasons that Holly hasn't. There's many interesting rabbit holes you can go down to find out about that. But like with the Ford truck from the 90s, right, compared to the Ford truck from the modern from nowadays, or like they're where's that other one I was just looking at? Okay, the engines are getting higher, right? The total space that and it doesn't necessarily have to, right? Sometimes they want bigger and bigger engines, right? And why is the bigger and bigger engine? The bigger and bigger engine is so that because it's part of this idea that well, it's not an idea. It's just a compensation for other things because of this belief that like having a bigger dick basically is going to make you better at sex, which if you refer to the previous video is false. But that's a belief that has been pushed into many men's minds by as I said previously, the penis pill and dick enlargement industry, which is a capitalist industry which has no interest in helping anyone get laid or have happy, fulfilling relationships, or to make you a not lonely man. It has an interest in making tons of money, selling you penis pills that don't work. Right, and similarly, Ford doesn't care about the Ford, like the U.S. and Israel and the West, don't care about children's lives, right? And so they go to why they're killing children in Palestine, and that's also why Ford doesn't care that the height of the hoods is killing children, because that's not what they're in the business to deal with. They're in the business of selling a fictional idea of what it means to be a man, right? To vulnerable, insecure, sexless, relationshipless men, right? Or men that want to kind of live out some kind of dream of tapping the Rockies, of course, have you tap your Rockies with Coors Light, this all terrain off road vehicle, right? This, you can lift your truck higher, right? If your car isn't high enough, right, you can make your truck even higher and bigger. And with this all terrain, ultra lifted mega truck, right, which has even worse visibility than a store bought ridiculously high truck, right? You can go up into journey off the beaten path, do your pioneer, read colonizer, settler colonial action up this mountain, go up into the with your all-terrain vehicle and its monster tires, right? There's actually clearance doesn't change at all when you lift trucks. So Holly has an extreme annoyance whenever she sees any of these because it doesn't do anything. It actually makes it more likely to tip over and cause many deaths and 16 car pileups when you're taking a turn, right? It decreases your already low vision, and it gives you no more clearance, right? And so but this idea of like, I'm gonna take my Jeep Grand Cherokee and go up the mountains into the wilderness, go camping. I'm gonna conquer the wilderness. I'm gonna be a rough and tough, rugged cowboy. Right? All of this is storytelling, right? This is all narratives. The average person who's buying the truck, the average man who has one of these trucks doesn't actually use it for what it says it is. It's all for show, right? Like we just saw this guy. There's this guy in the parking lot who had a huge truck like this, and he had like a cowboy hat, right? Like, and he's in Hawaii. He's like some white guy in Hawaii with a big cowboy hat. It's like the wrong color. It's like a brand new cowboy hat. He had like a giant knife. He had like a 2 foot long, not 2 foot, but like a giant like mega Bowie knife slung on his hip on a belt that's like almost falling off, right? It's a guy like somehow his mommy or his sugar wife, if he has a wife, bought him this car probably, right? This huge truck. And he's never used that knife. I can guarantee you that. It looked like he just bought it. He never used that hat. He just bought this truck. He spent thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on all of this theater, right? To make a insecure, lonely man feel more like this false narrative of what it means to be a man, right? Is to be like Clint Eastwood out. It's a kind of an older story, more like for the boomer men, right? You're gonna be out, in the wilderness and being a rugged, pulling yourself up by bootstraps, gunslinger, right? With your giant knife, what you're gonna fight crocodiles, right? You're gonna fight a bear or some savages, right? There's this like, I'm gonna defend my castle. I'm gonna defend my plot of stolen land on stolen indigenous territory. I'm gonna like fight. I'm gonna defend my little cottage or my cabin in the woods that I get to in my giant overpriced truck that costs like 3 times as much based on U.S. protectionism and fossil fuel global price fixing and oligarchy. And I'm gonna, there's all these interests that, right? The oil interests, the car companies, the military, which, needs more people, especially men, like ramped up and amped up on toxic masculine nonsense. The penis enlargement industry. I mean, all of these industries, right? Prey on and then encourage increased buying into these like kind of fictional ideas of what masculineness is that none of these people are actually living out. It's just for show, and it does. A larger vehicle will cost more. A larger vehicle will cost more money, right? It has more total parts going into it. The U.S. does control. There's actually limitations on imports and exports and what kind of cars can be sold. Trucks. It's actually they have like very high tariffs for a lot of countries to stop to so part of where the GM and the big American manufacturers, they have a kind of rigged game inside to make sure that they make money, and they stop like certain kinds of imports from coming in. Even though some of the imported vehicles, I mean, most of the imported vehicles are actually better for a variety of reasons. But anyways, so there's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Not self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's a kind of like it's a toxic masculine individuals, right? And then companies, right? They seek out these sorts of vehicles. The companies manufacture through marketing car commercials, right? Whenever you see a vehicle, whenever you see a car, some guy with his cowboy hat, throwing all of his stuff in the back of the truck, in the all of the cowboy itself was the cowboy image of the 20th century in all the movies, the Clint Eastwood movies and the Bruce Waynes, right? All of that itself is a fabrication. The cowboys actually were mostly brown and black and non-white guys, and it was not a very well-paid profession. They were the it was seen as a low, dirty profession, and that was kind of recaptured for a white capitalist, American identity, post World War II, right? It was a story that was being told by Hollywood, and then kind of reiterated by car companies as one of marketing as a kind of part of the American, imperialist, capitalist, patriarchal complex, right? To manufacture this story in everybody's mind about who America is, the selfish individual, rational interest pursuing man, right? It's part of the Ayn Rand, anti-communist scheme. And so because car commercials are part of Hollywood, they are part of that narrative manufacturing, the story about who you are, right? And of course, post World War II is also the era of women who had been doing a lot of the work when a lot of men were fighting, were working in factories, and they were the Rosie the Riveters, right? They were making bullets, they were doing the canning, they were doing engineering, right? And the men came back from the war, and then there was this extreme push to get rid of the women who are working, and to like have make sure that women were in the house, were subdued, right, and were the property of men again, and the women were the stay-at-home 50s moms, housewives, and then the men would go out and do the work, and everyone would just be consuming vast quantities of cars and trucks and houses and toasters and appliances under a consumerist, capitalist, patriarchal world, and women would simply kind of be women were the in-house servants, right? And so the coming back to the present though, so the marketing, the story that the vehicle marketing is telling, right? That's kind of like, people aren't really, there's this whole thing in marketing where people are not really buying the car, right? They're not buying. No, I mean, some people are looking, like, okay, this is going to give me this much mileage. This is going to give me this much, it's going to cost me this much. I can fit this vehicle this much space. That's part of it. But especially for like Western and wealthier or middle class or formerly middle class consumers, a lot of it is, what are the car is about, the car or the truck is about the story that you're telling yourself, or that the corporations and marketing entities have told you, is that you want to hear about yourself, right? The car is like it's like a shirt, right? It's like fashion, right? It's like, this is the thing I'm telling the rest of the world about myself, and what I'm telling myself about myself, right? When I put on this, right guard, or this, particular, I put on this, fancy suit, or I put on this Tommy Hilfiger shirt, I am this cool, successful guy that's going to get laid. It's not going to happen anymore. That's not how it works anymore. But that was the story for the 80s and the 90s, right? If I have this particular truck, I'm going to be seen as a rough and tough, awesome, cool man. And other cool, awesome, tough, macho men like me will see me with that cool truck, and I'll see him with that cool truck, and we'll be like, hey, awesome dude. We're both awesome, rough, tough dudes, even though we both work in offices, and we're dorks, and we don't ever use our trucks for anything but to seem like we're more manly whatever that means, to each other, right? Or we work in the because the thing is, there are people who do get trucks that is for purpose, but the ones who do that, they're not getting the truck, like they just get the truck that functions, right? The people who drive a large 18-wheeler, they're driving the 18-wheeler, and a lot of them are actually non-white. Actually, the thing, what interesting note about that is, like, there's a trucker convoy, right, in Canada, and then in many countries around the world. A lot of those, like, right-wing, anti-vax, anti-science people who are specifically anti the lockdowns, and then they have, like, a lot of far-right characteristics. They have Confederate flags with them, right? The trucker convoys, but the trucker convoys, where they're all driving the giant, ridiculous trucks, right? And the people who are driving those trucks, they're not actual professional truckers that are driving trucks because that's part of their job, that is, like, accomplishing actual productive labor in the world, right? They're driving their purchased, their overpriced, massive carbon emitting, penis enhancement, phallic compensation with wheels, right? They're driving trucks that they don't actually use for much, because actually they're underpaid, disproportionately non-white and women workers are doing the work. They're just driving that truck around to make themselves seem like they have a big dick. So the trucker convoy, right? What was all of these people driving these trucks, right, into downtown cities, right? I think it was in Canada, right? And it's not the only place, but the thing, and it was actually inspired by far right pro Bolsonaro, which is a fascist who now lives in the United States, because that's where the U.S. is the dumpster for all global fascism and imperialism and capitalist dickheads. And so the truckers in Canada, the most of the people actually driving in, they weren't actual they're not like professional truckers, right? The truckers actually recently, the actual truckers had a protest. They had like a strike action, right? The truckers had been the real truckers, which were mostly East Indian. There were a lot of women truckers, right? And a lot of, like, non-white and immigrant truckers, right? Not these people, right? And that's the average trucker, right? Because the trucking industry actually does not pay that good nowadays in a lot of cases. And there were the real truckers who drive trucks professionally. They're predominantly vaccinated because a lot of this was anti-vax, it was anti-mask, and it was anti-lockdown, if you remember, right? And it was deeply toxic masculine. And then the real truckers were actually asking. They were all mostly vaccinated because in the real world that you have to function in, not in the world where you're living in this story of who you are, right? Like as an incel, as a lonely incel on YouTube or 4chan or Reddit, or talking to your, men's rights activists on Twitter or X or wherever else you are, whining about how TikTok's destroying the world because there's too many women. But when you actually are driving trucks in the real world, you have to be vaccinated, period, because you're crossing the border constantly, and it was required at the time. Your big concern is not that there's gonna be vaccines. It's the big concern is that you're not being paid enough, right? Like actual essential workers labor, which is actually, I would call it actual workers labor. And there's a lot of inessential workers. Like a lot of these people are actually business owners, right? It's the trucker convoy was very much like the January 6 people, right? Who are the January 6 people, right? Small business owners with like 10 Mexican employees paid less than minimum wage, right? Like somebody who owns a restaurant in Florida, like a white restaurant owner, right? Like somebody who, a doctor somewhere in California, right, who is mass prescribing OxyContin and opioids, being paid $30,000 bonuses from criminal drug companies, right? Who thinks there's too many brown people in his neighborhood now, right? Fancy like real estate agents. Those are the people, right? These are the same kind of people, right? And these are they disproportionately men, disproportionately like right wing men. And so anyway, so coming back to the trucks, there is, and so the people who are driving trucks, they have to be certified, right, to drive those large, high visibility trucks. I mean, the large trucks that, like, you know, if you're driving an 18-wheeler, right, like this, not like that, like not like that. That's just a ridiculous lifted truck. You know, if you're driving a semi trailer, right, or one of these large trucks, the engines have to be built in a very specific way. The car is higher and it's bigger, right? So, it has the engine needs to be bigger to haul that amount of weight, right? And but the visibility of the height of the driver and the visibility, the design of these large vehicles is such that it gives you enough visibility, right? Or like buses, right? They have a very large vehicle, but they have a flat front, so it makes it very easy. You know, you have no objects or any material obscuring your vision directly in front of you, right? So that the bus can see children walking past, right? The bus driver, right? And so, but buses, semi trucks, they all have like specialized training. You have this whole, you know, multi-week or multi-month program you have to go through just to be able to drive these cars or drive these vehicles because of their visibility, right? And the thing is, and so you know, you can still have accidents, obviously, but you know these are precautions that the society takes so that people don't get killed. But with the lifted trucks and these new kind of trucks that they're selling, you know, these are like have in many cases even worse visibility than these large trailers, right? But the thing is, but part of the thing is like, it's like guys want to feel like they're driving like a massive, you know, more powerful, you know, their engine is big enough to haul like, you know, 75 tons of coal or something, right? But it's like, you know, if a louder engine was better. I remember that was a big thing in the noughties, having a louder engine and like putting like amplifiers on your engine was a whole toxic masculine vehicle thing. But anyways, so how does it impact male loneliness? So it you know, in trying to feel like you in like getting wrapped up in that narrative, right? It's kind of like part of it is like getting wrapped up in the narrative of, you know, who you think you are as a man, and or as what you think a man should be, right? Driving this huge vehicle, having this huge engine, right? Having this ridiculous low visibility windshield, lifting your truck to make it look higher, which is somehow going to be better. It's like Tom Cruise putting 6-inch, or you know, some guy adding 3 inches to his height when he's like 5'11" and he's saying he's 6'2", right? Because if I'm taller, I'm going to be better, and that's just going to that's going to help me in life. I mean, obviously, if you want to do that, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but this idea that like that will solve my problems, or that will make me masculine, and that will make me attractive, and then I will get laid, I will have relationships, I will have sex, I will know what it's, I will know that a woman's boob doesn't feel like a bag of wet sand, like the 40-year-old virgin didn't know, right? So that's not good, but you know, that is not true, right? That's a myth, right? Like the story that people who spend $60,000 on a Humvee or one of these trucks, it's a myth that they're going to use that truck for anything useful. Actually, just increasing the carbon emissions. You're going to get into more car crashes, and you know, it's a waste of a lot of space. Actually, like most people, realistically, you know, the Subaru or the CRV or like a hatchback 90s Corolla is basically like, for most cases, optimal for the average person is moving, with the exception of if you're moving like more people, like you know, if you have like 5 kids or something, or you're routinely moving like 10 people around for whatever reason, then you might need like a larger, like slightly larger SUV, but it doesn't need to be like ridiculously large like most cars that are sold now are. And also And if you need to haul things, you could get a truck, but you don't need a giant truck. Doesn't help you. Like any size of truck that can haul the appropriate amount of things that you're hauling. Like you're actually farming. But the thing is, actual people that farm, usually they buy their vehicles in that way, right? Because then they're that or if you're moving large amounts of like in Hawaii, my brother moves a lot of agricultural material and soil, right? Because he works on land restoration. And so, like, they usually have at least one truck. It's usually an older truck, though. They don't have a brand new giant truck because that's not going to be good on gas. It's low visibility. It doesn't actually haul that much more. Right? So, So anyway, I'll finish up on that because I'm gonna move on. 7:54. So, but and so that's so and so and so there's many things that I could keep going. There's many directions I could keep taking that. But one of the things is that so women are buying more. What I said earlier, what this article is talking about is women buy more cars. Why are the designs so macho, right? Not just Elon's Cybertruck. The car design is geared towards men, even though women buy more than 60% of all new cars sold in the U.S. So one of the things is one interesting fact is that most of the vehicles are now being bought by women, right? So number one, why aren't there more designs that are geared towards women? Because there is a handful of like the one statistic is that recently, especially within the last 20 years, women are getting more degrees, higher degrees, right? The number of women that are getting master's degrees, PhDs is definitely like higher than the total number of men that are getting them. Men are not finishing college. Men are not, if they finish college, they're not going on to higher degrees. The qualifications and accreditations that men have is lower and lower relative to women. Men are not applying for jobs as much. They give up faster, right? Like I have a friend who, he actually worked a little bit on one of my games on Terminus Machina back in the day, but like there were applications for jobs at Amazon and Microsoft because you live in the Pacific Northwest, right? And when the job openings happened, this is about 10 years ago, to 5-10 years ago. But when the job openings happened, I remember, he was like, "Oh, I didn't get a job. My dad worked at Microsoft, and I was supposed to just get a good job. I was supposed to get a good upper middle class, high paying job at Microsoft or Amazon, just like my dad did, right?" His dad was a boomer. He's a white boomer dad and a white boomer son. He played a lot of D&D, and he was like, very mopey and sad all the time. And I remember like one of the things, and when I was working with him on Terminus Machina, I was like, okay, so here's some code that we need to get done. And he was like, "Oh, I'm just like feeling really depressed recently, and so I haven't really done anything today." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well that sucks. Depression is real. Sad. Having your mental health, taking a mental health day, that's a normal thing. Okay, buddy." But then like there would be like one day of maybe work and then like 2 days of depression. And I was like, but then I'll be like, "Oh, so what did you do today?" "Oh, well, I spent all yesterday and today playing Shadowrun. I played Shadowrun and Cyberpunk 2020 and tabletop RPGs with my friends." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. Did you do any of the code? Like when you were playing?" And he was like, "Oh no, I was too depressed." So now we're getting to weaponized incompetence, right? Which ties into that, which is that so he had this pattern of not applying for jobs, right? Obviously I'm a professional game developer, and I was like somebody that could give him, I did like when he would apply, I wish that I was like, "I hope you get a job," because I knew him before he started working with me on this game. I said like, "I hope you get the job at Amazon game division there's one there, and there's other jobs. He's like, "I hope you get the programming job at Microsoft or whatever." Right. And I was like, good luck. But then when the job openings happened, like he wouldn't apply. He would wait and wait, just like missed application, apply late. He wouldn't like put very much effort into the application process. Nowadays, when you apply for jobs, you got to like really, there's like multiple rounds of interviews. There's like a group interview, then there's a second group interview, then there's the individual interviews. there's a whole like, it's like going through a boot camp, applying for a job sometimes, which is that's not necessarily good, but in the 1960s, 1950s, that era, his father, right, as a boomer white man, could just walk with a high school diploma, or even not, just walk across the street to the average, company and give his resume, turn his resume into whoever was there, and expect to get a job pretty quickly, right? I mean, as a white man specifically, but I mean, not so much for everybody else. But and you could get a good job that paid like you had a good unionized job, or that was paying enough to afford a house and a car. maybe more like not a Cybertruck, but a Thunderbird or whatever was a signifier of male American dream success. You could get your job, you could get your health care, you could get your food with one man's salary with just a high school diploma, without very much effort needed to go into that. That's like Boomer Steve. And but that's not the case now, right? Not even for the men, right? So there still are men, and there are still Boomer and Gen X, like Elon and Warren Buffett's and the Bill Gateses. There are Boomer and Gen X men who are executives. They're upper management. They're like the top of the pyramid. They still have their jobs, but they have not come through that process. Number one, so they're still kind of spoiled little brats, who have billions of dollars in their pocket. They are the top engineers, right? They are the Harvard professors. They run the university education system. They are the American Medical Association heads who have this giant pharmaceutical drug ring that's called the American medical system, where they prescribe Prozac for all their sad boys and make $30,000 a year giving them fentanyl. Giving fentanyl to the masses who are in pain and suffering, and then help them die off. And but these people who are on the top of that pyramid, they're older, right? They've been in their job for a long time. They're outdated on COVID policy. They think that masking doesn't do anything, and that chronic illness is fake, right? Like we talked about super pneumonias, and pandemic is still real, right? So these people, they have outdated ideas, right? Yes, COVID is not gone, and we have mass destroyed immune systems after six rounds of COVID, Omicron, Epsilon, Delta, Kraken, Leviathan, and Behemoth strains over the last 4 years. So please wear a mask. Please, get the proper vaccines and social distance. Demand air purifiers and HEPA filters and etc. Right. But anyway, so there is a older generation of men that are still in that position, but there are a lot of younger men that are under them, right? Like this friend of mine, right, who worked on games and had a programming degree, right, who expect to be able to waltz into they want to be able to just walk into with the same level of like 1 out of 10 effort that 1950s and 60s North American men, white men, could put into their life in general, right? Into work, into school. They didn't even need to go to college, right? They didn't need a higher degree, right? They could just, with goofing off, throwing paper airplanes, right, and pulling girls' hair and letting the girls clean up all of the dodgeballs while they goof off, or cook all their food while they did whatever they wanted. Those boomer men could just waltz into a great life, right? They could find a wife. The women, were not. They were basically women couldn't even have bank accounts in that time. So the men were going into these cushy, easy to get jobs, and the women were basically relegated to indentured servants and cooking and cleaning sex slaves. And white men could expect to simply have that deal, and the black and brown people were the servants and the help, as it was in Greece under Aristotle. The in-house women slaves and the out-house black and brown slaves, Afro-Asiatics in Greece's case, and so that's why it's the Star-Spangled Roman Empire, because it's the Mediterranean branch of the Western The U.S. kind of tacked hard Mediterranean away from Britain and France in the late 1700s, 18th and 19th century. Anyways, so I'm gonna try to not go off on one of those for a little bit. the level of expectation that men have had is very low, and certainly in Western societies, the U.S. and the European countries and Canada, etc. So there's been very low expectations. It's a very low bar. It's very little asked, and then everything given, right? And then the children of Western men, the sons of Western men today, right? The failed sons of empire, as I sometimes call them, expect to put in that same almost no effort, being grown up, basically man children. And like the thing is, it's not that like they've gotten worse, really. The boomer and Gen X white men are all man children, right? They just didn't have consequences. And so they're millennial and Gen Z sons. And even if you're not, whiteness is a moving target. It mutates depending on what an imperialist, capitalist, patriarchal system needs, and racist system needs, right? And but the people who deem themselves, you could even be black or you could be brown, but if you deem yourself as somebody that is deserving of that life, right, that you are supposed to have under the American dream, blah blah blah, right? A lot of them are Indian, like that horrible clown who's running for president in the Republican Party. I forget any party, but Biden is also one of these people, right? Who never worked a day in his life. Basically, he just runs his mouth, and he even says all the wrong things all the time, like quote unquote gas, where he says the most racist things, and then he still keeps his job somehow. He just promotes genocide and keeps his job somehow. But the millennial and Gen Z sons of their parents expect that same level of effort. Which is almost none. They put in that almost no effort. They're not getting back the same results though, right? So you can't, right? So if you just turn in one or a few job applications, right, and then you tell your powerful daddy to call up all of the, right, like George Bush, right, like hey, yeah, I know my son flunked in Harvard and he got shit-faced and drank himself stupid, and he crashed two of George Sr.'s oil companies, and he's like currently face down in the toilet, but you're gonna pass my son at Harvard and you're gonna put him into a good job because you're gonna make it happen because I'm a Bush and we run the United States and we run the West, and he's a white man, and he's a white man of a particularly powerful and wealthy family of the Western plutocracy, the Bush family. So you're gonna so George Bush, he failed everything in his life, including like being president, right? I guess he succeeded at being president, which is to do nothing of the United States, and he couldn't read. He was like reading to children, and he was like barely able to read the children's books, right? But that's the level. But he was never expected to put in any effort. But and his family would always pull him along. But nowadays, I'm not saying that every man is George W. Bush in the United States. But like, most people are not going to get that kind of deal. Even the men. You're going to walk into a job. You're going to have to put in multiple. You're going to have to put in a lot of effort. They're not going to hire someone who is going to be saying, I'm sad today, so I can't work, right? And that's just something. I'm depressed now, and I can't do it, right? Why are you depressed? You're depressed because there's a lot of reasons why you get depressed, right? But why you're sad. But part of the reason why this is kind of this. It is a very nasty cycle, because the people who are getting the men who are becoming sad because part of it is they're not getting the jobs they want, they're not dating the women that they want, right? And then they're going, why are all these women dating all these normal dudes? But see, and and that comes into this other part, which is that there's this one tweet that Holly was sharing that I thought was really illustrative, that Holly shared with me. Let me see if I can go get that. See, 5-2. Yeah. So there's this one. the existential horror of realizing it really is just a skill issue. So, uh, this is something that somebody shares, and had a lot of reshares and a lot of people commenting on it. Okay, so this guy says something bad is happening. I have seen 3 9 out of 10s of females in the past dating. Now I don't condone this language, obviously, but this is what the person's saying. I have seen 9s and 10s females in the past month dating cave trolls, demons, true fat. Something receding hairline 5'2" boyfriends. Each time I saw, I was certain that they were her orbiter until they kiss. I've never seen this. No, they weren't gold digging. They looked happy. This is different. Something extra has been thrown in the water. It defies all logic. So like obviously this is like one person, but this is like a common thing that you see. This is a common attitude and a common sort of commentary, right? Or the ideas, and then like being like, how this is what's that? This is not normal, right? This is not logical, right? And this is part of where the male gaze, and this comes into the other one. How does when I talked about like the male navel gaze? What I meant by that is like, you know, obviously the male gaze in general is the male the male perspective, the male view of things, particularly in film, is one of the major in film is one of the major places where this plays out. Like in movies where that are all focusing on boobs and butts, and when a woman comes in, it's always like in a man who is attracted to her. She's moving in slow motion. There's all this like sexy music happening, right? And that kind of like, that's some of the signifiers of it's a male gaze. What kind of scenes tend to be focused on, like in the literal gaze of the camera and the cinematography within a movie or a TV show. But it's also like, you know, the male gaze is also like this idea of like what the male gaze is like, what is attractive, or what you feel is attractive, right? Or what a particular man feels is attractive to not just to men, but also what women think, right? So there's a male gaze that's like what the male idea of what women want, right? So that's what this person is talking about. You know, the women are supposed to have the women are supposed to be wanting, right? Obviously the women are not supposed to be wanting a fat person with a receding hairline, and if they're 5'2", then that's bad, and so the women can't possibly be going out with these people. So these very attractive women, I mean, to this person obviously, is saying they can't possibly be wanting to go out with these other people, right? Because but like, you know, and so in a male movie, right? So if you look at like, I don't know, I'm just gonna choose some random thing, right? You know, I choose Conan the Barbarian because this is one of the earlier movies that, you know, it was about selling gym memberships, right? But then it's also like this idea of the bigger and more muscular the man, and the more tougher and chattier the man looks, a Chad, you know, the kind of you know, that's the online male the online male lonely culture world of Reddit, 4chan, and all those circles, right? They kind of, you know, hyper focus on these, you know, physical characteristics that they think deem, you know, that deem your sexual, romantic, and also economic future and all these things, right? And you know, everybody knows what I'm talking about, I think, who's going to be watching this. But if you look, but it's important to remember, like, this is like the 1980s, in which you're having a depression where lots of people are suddenly hitting really bad economic times. You know, there's homeless people everywhere, right? There's actually this study that showed that I don't have it at the tip of my fingers, but like the gym memberships, like physical fitness, right? People like doing CrossFit, people doing you know, going to gyms, pumping iron, right? Running, and trying to get themselves in really, really, really super top shape, it really spikes during times of the inevitable recessions and depressions of capitalism, right? Especially in the 80s and then in the 08, 09 crisis, which has never really ended. That's why fitness has never really gone out of style. But it's kind of like, because the only thing you have left to sell is your body, right? And so you're trying to, it's kind of like it's a perfect storm of a lot of things. You don't have a lot of money, so all you can do, you don't have a lot of times. You're trying to maximize your earning potential, right? Everything else is gone. You gotta just try to get any job. So if you can look hot for a camera, whether that's marketing or selling your body. If you're a woman, you could sell it for or any gender. You could sell it for sex or stripping, right? Boxing, wrestling, beating other people up. So trying to get yourself into this really top, trying to focus inward on your body. And capitalism also has its own desire to push people to want to do that. Like I was talking about last time, gym memberships is working out inside of a gym is a very individual thing where you're self-improving. It's a very Ayn Rand, Milton Friedmanian activity. You know what I'm saying? It's a very selfish, individual self-interest focused activity, right? Your goals, your personal goals, you're fighting with yourself to personally improve yourself, right? It's not like a group. It's not like a union or a communist movement or a team effort, or a decolonial action or a mass protest. It's an individual movement. It's an individual action to personally improve your competitiveness in a capitalist marketplace, right? I mean, obviously it's good to be healthy, but the focus of a lot of fitness culture is that. And so then, anyway, long story short, so that's a lot of so that there was a particular push for those kinds of bodies in that time to sell gym memberships, which is why they put Arnold at the front of everything, right? And then the superhero and the comic book characters, which is part of the toxic masculine and male loneliness puzzle as well, kind of evolved to reflect those, right? Rob Liefeld with his 200 pounds of Captain America's body weight being in his pecs that stick out Captain, I gotta do this. Where is that? There's that one Captain America. Yeah, the 1980s or the time of the Captain America pecs of Rob Liefeld's 1980s comic books are like the ridiculous over exaggerated fronts of 2023 Ford trucks. You know what I'm saying? What is happening there? But anyway, so where was I coming from? So the body types that the men are kind of pushed to view as, the men in particular, because it's a very male. It is very male marketed films, and there are other things that are marketed towards women, but it's also marketed to the population in general. And the women should want to be slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, not because that helps the gym memberships, that and all of these new fitness, and it helps the diet industry, right, among other things. And that's about money, right? Like the penis industry, penis enlargement industry. It's about money. It's not about what women actually want to have sex with, right? Women, like I said last time, women don't want to be in pain, right? And also, women don't necessarily want a guy with 300 pounds of this muscle exploding all over the place who only focuses on himself and his gains, in all capitals, right? But you wouldn't know that, right? Based upon what the porn industry, what the movie industry, right? What the fitness industry, right? What the beauty industry, right? What the male fitness industry would tell you, right? And so when men come into the dating world, they're like, why are women going out with people who don't look like Captain, Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy, or Chris Evans Captain America, right? Maybe not Rob. No, I think maybe guys are maybe Rob Liefeld's Captain America is too much, but certainly women all want to go out with Chris Evans Captain America, right? Mr. Dorito chip shaped muscle man. and the like obviously some women are attracted to a variety of bodies, and they are going to be into that, but the idea that like that but that is all male gaze, right? So that is not women aren't making those comic book characters, women aren't making those films, right? In the same way that women aren't designing those cars. So that's, you're not getting the women, you're not getting women's input into what they find attractive. You're getting the male input into what women find attractive, which if you think about it, that's not relevant, right? If your goal is to if your goal is to not be lonely, to find a a female partner, if you want to find any partner, but if you want to find a woman partner, you're not going to be doing very well if you're focusing on what men think women want rather than just like actually like listening to women. You know what I'm saying? Which that's another problem, which is that, if you talk a toxic masculine trait is not listening ever to women, right? Not listening, right? So coming back to that original thing I was saying earlier, which is that men didn't put in any effort, but men didn't have to put in any effort because women were essentially property that needed men for financial security and to survive economically, to have a roof and to have food and basic needs provided, because women were literally banned from having bank accounts and have always been paid less than men and were not accepted into most gainful jobs for most of the 20th century and a lot of the 21st century. And so men, they were expected to just marry a man and the man would take care of everything, right? Certainly for the boomer and the Gen X. And there's still expectations, but like, right, there's like women, there's a lot of pushback in the 80s, right, on that, but there's still this idea in men's minds, and a lot of men were upset about that. Like John McClane in Die Hard was upset that he as a New York cop had a wife that got a job in LA in a corporate office in Nakatomi Plaza that paid more than him. And so that was part of like that kind of like, this is, but it's still kind of like this. And so like a lot of the in the noughties and the teens, there's this kind of like, well, we just have to go back to the 50s, right? Obviously MAGA, right? And all these, the reactionary, men's rights activists, et cetera, they're definitely trying to push back in that direction. Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson are all trying to, we have to just, the world is broken because women have too much power. They're too equal now. And so we have to just go backwards. Right. And the thing is like, I think I said that last time, and just to reiterate it, that's not going to happen. That's not possible. And, so not listening to women like boomer men and Gen X men did, not listening to women, not actually, which you have to listen to them first in order to then know what they want, right? And then not only just knowing what they want, and you go, okay, so women don't necessarily want a 6'6", Chad man that's like super ripped muscle dude with like that can bench 600 pounds, and and they don't just want some guy who is driving this mega truck, right, or a cyber truck that guzzles gas faster than a 747. Women don't actually want that. They want, what do the women want? Women want a guy who will do the dishes. Women want the guy that actually, really not just listen, but like actually listens and doesn't want to do debate bro stuff with her, right? So watching, this is actually a major request. Here's another exhibit. Here's another scientific. This is, as I say, I'm a Western culture expert, Silver Spook, PhD in Western culture, and also Western masculine culture as a subdivision of that. And women don't want somebody who is going to be constantly wanting to do debates. Oh shoot, wrong place. Women are not. There are some, but on average, they're far less interested in this debating stuff that the men love to do. This is part of that's Greek culture, which is toxic, masculine, patriarchal, oligarchic, capitalist, racist culture, right? Which is Roman culture, which is Spanish, French, British, and American culture, and Canadian culture. But in the masculine culture within those cultures, right? So somebody said I find men who default to debating or immediately being contrarian really bizarre. Like, why can't you have a normal conversation? You don't sound smart. You sound insecure. Like you have something to prove. Rest. Please don't cry in my comments and mentions if you haven't read the tweet. It's not about people who disagree with you for good reason, right? But because there's one thing to, obviously there's disagreements happen. People don't all agree on everything and don't have to, right? But there's a thing about debate, which is, a lot of times debate in certainly in Western culture, right? When two white men or two men of any kind. I mean, my dad is one of these people. And he's not a conservative. He's like a liberal, progressive-y sort of dude, but he's a boomer man he's a Hawaiian man, but he was raised in forcibly Americanized under U.S. illegal occupation. So, so he's been surrounded by white men for most of his life. He self-surrounds himself with white men, including university professors and in general. But he really likes to debate things and get into these discourses, the quote unquote discourses. But a lot of times debate is not really about. It's hard to even describe, I think, to a lot of men and to Western people in general. A lot of what debate is, especially when it's like on stage in a public view. Debate is not about sincere, ingenuous attempts to find the truth, solve problems, right? Like each party trying to find the right thing so that the truth so that they can move forward and do the right thing. Debate is about the aesthetics, and debate is about solidifying the superiority and about solidifying the perceived superiority, goodness, smartness, mental strength of one against another, right? The debate, right? It's not. That's why the debates happen publicly, right? The presidential debates, right? It's debates are performances for everyone else usually, right? And sometimes you can have one-on-one debate. It's just about ego tripping each other. But it's about that's why to win. There's even instructions how to win debates, right? How did Donald Trump win debates, right? The guy is a moron. In many ways, he doesn't know. He says whatever pops into his head, right? Like hydroxychloroquine and Windex. If you dump that into your lungs, and if you shine mag lights into your veins, that will clean COVID. He literally said stuff like that, right? But Donald Trump was able to win debates, right? As a toxic Western normal masculine man, macho dude, because he makes his body in certain positions in certain ways. He makes belittling comments that are like out of line, false, etc. But he makes it visually to like the reptile brain and to in a public context, just basically bullies his way into seeming like he's in charge of a situation, which is what a lot of debate amounts to. Like obviously, like you can have a conversation, or people like are trying to figure out the truth of a topic or a problem or whatever, right? And that could be productive, right? But especially when men are like going into debate mode, right? That's not actually what they're trying to accomplish. Even they might not acknowledge that, it's fist fight with words, it's like having a ridiculous oversized penis compensation truck and then measuring it against your friend, but using your mouth, right? I mean, I'm not talking about sucking each other off. You can do that if you want, but talking about like, you're trying to like have a discursive, who can use the bigger words and seem smarter, right? Using bigger words, a white man came up with a word for that. It's called sesquipedalianism. It's called obsession with making up bigger words and using bigger words in order to make yourself seem smarter, which is why people get university degrees in the West, especially the dudes. Right? So coming up using, and women know this, right? Because women will tell you, I can tell when the man is going into his big genius galaxy brain mode, because he starts condescending to me as a woman and using bigger words, but he's using the big words incorrectly. And I don't know, Holly, if you have that link to that one guy who used this word incorrectly and the woman called him on it, and he went into big genius. I'm a big strong man brain mode. If you have that link, drop it in. Yeah, if you have drop it in the chat. But anyways, because I'll jump to it. There was a man who recently on Twitter, there's a woman who like is knowledgeable in an area, and then this man used this particular word incorrectly, and he started using he started pulling out his thesaurus. He in the Magic School Bus, or what is it? They unpack in the Schoolhouse Rock. They unpack the adjectives, but men unpack the thesaurus, right? They gotta pull out all the biggest words to make yourself seem smarter and smarter. And it's a thing that's done in particular against women, in order to, not because they're trying to, again, if a guy's using a big word, you use whatever size words. I mean, I write weird sci-fi for a living, then I make up all kind of giant words that I don't even know the meaning of. But I know that I don't know the meaning of them, and part of the comedy is I'm making up words that hopefully are funny because they're people trying to seem smarter than they are in the story. And also because I like coming up with neologisms, and cyberpunk science fiction is full of those. But it's kind of like if you're like talking about a subject, it's not really about like what you're saying. It's about like how and your attitude towards the whole situation, and it's all about your approach to that conversation that you're having, right? That kind of makes it a problem or not, right? Like you get, women can feel it, women can feel it when it's, this is becoming something. This is all about gaslighting me and making me feel small. This is not about, right? Because you could have a woman and a guy in a job, like let's say they're like, electrical engineers, and they're all like, okay, we have to solve this part of this diagram, and so okay, so where is this node gonna match up with this? And they'll be, okay, well that gotta go here, and and they could be like, I think it goes to, no, actually no, that's not right, because let me recheck my imaginary number math, because there's two people who are like proficient in their area, like I was saying, right? There's truckers who do real trucking, and they're mostly non-white, like East Indians in Canada, and their problem is not not wanting to get Bill Gates biochips inserted to their arm with CCP China to Justin Trudeau shots or something, right? That's not the problem that truckers have. They're like, please let us be paid more. We need to be paid more under this corporate capitalist system where rich white dudes own all the truck companies and all the vehicles, and it sucks, right? So we need more wages, right? And we need better protections, right? And actually, I prefer more protections, not less. Right. And so similarly, like if, so those people are trying to solve a real problem but a lot of times with the debate, it's not about trying to, it's not to try to actually do things in the real world. It's about trying to seem smarter to other people for winning. Right. That's why debates are won. Right. And then the audience is even like Intelligence Squared, which is basically just a bunch of Western white patriarchal posturing nonsense, right? To make the West seem like it has a brain, which it doesn't. Otherwise, it wouldn't be committing genocide and mass destroying its own economic reality and de-dollarizing itself. But anyways, you at the end of the debate, right? One side launches their argument, the other side has counter arguments, and there's cross interrogations, blah 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 blah. Right? That's how Western law works. That doesn't exist either. Otherwise, the U.S. wouldn't. They would. The international courts and the international so-called UN human rights entities would not be allowing obvious textbook genocide according to the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights. But anyways, I keep on thinking about that stuff because it is relevant, but I'm gonna try to stay on topic. If what side won the debate? What side won that, right? Law also, right? This is how a lot of this works. So who can make the audience think that, a lot of times it's like, which is why critical race theory, which is pushed forth by non-white and predominantly black legal scholars, is a real problem, right? Which is that if you have a racist jury, if you're a racist culture that is not going to is going to unfairly, choose black people as criminals and white people as innocent, you're not going to get a fair verdict, right? And so similarly, right? If you have, these kind of, right, the debate is not about solving problems. Debate is about trying to win by, and not generally it's not by actually having better arguments. It's about trying to appeal to whatever you can, right? The irrationalities, the racism of the population, right? The prejudices and the whatever the emotions, right, of whoever you're talking to, in order to make yourself seem in charge, more correct. Not and because the audience is also, right, when it's a debate in front of an audience, right? It's the audience is not necessarily there to come to the truth either, right? Right? The audience is not there to come to the truth necessarily. The audience, right? A lot of them are looking to get their biases confirmed, right? A lot of them are looking to they're looking to see what they want to see, right? That's why a lot of these, the political debates on the debate tube and the debate Twitch and all, it's a really toxic space. I mean, there's people who operate frequently in that space. I think there was a video in the left tube that was about the dirtbag left, right, and like how that can lead into really bad spaces. It doesn't actually further the goals of any sincere left formation, right? When you just go appeal to the debate audience, and that's a real toxic. Just the entire approach, the attitude, and what the people who are debating, which is a lot of insincere, disingenuous grifting a lot of the time, and the people that are watching, right, what they want out of it is they don't want to come to the truth. They want to eat popcorn and be entertained with a bunch of fireworks and hear their own biases confirmed. They don't care, right, about the other side. They're not won over. Or some people go, well, these three people, I won these three people over to that side. Yeah, and it's like, but how much did like degrading all of our discourse to that level, empowering all of this like not very helpful debate culture, which itself is a problem, right? How much did that actually? How much has that furthered your goals of liberation for all people, trying to undo colonialism, capitalism, patriarchy, all those things, right? Ableism. If you're using, if one side is just using R slurs left and right, which is what a lot of that world is, right? That's one argument is, well, we have to use the R slurs and say the N word because then eventually we'll get the racists and the ableists and these horrible people who are, if we keep saying that word enough, eventually they'll come over to our side. If we like, it's like, I don't know. It seems to be a very bad strategy to me. So Holly says, I can't find the post. Anyways, so, but that's on debate. So I found men who default to debating or immediately being contrarian really bizarre. Like, why can't you have a normal conversation? The man who wrote the 7 principles for making marriage work got harassed by other men for pointing out that men's visceral knee-jerk reaction to being influenced by a woman in any way starts at boyhood and is often a major reason why intimate male-female MF relationships fall apart. Anyways, so yeah, I just wanted to point out. So one of the things that is resulting in the male loneliness is realizing that is you're still seeing things. Well, me and my bros, we all do this, and so that's the thing that we're gonna do with women, and like that's not the way that women want to converse. They don't want to, I mean, some will want to, be in a discussion, but they don't want to be kind of constantly like feeling like they have to fight against somebody who is trying to, go to intellectual war with them or try to gaslight them all the time. They have enough of that with all the other men in the world, which is like 50% of the population. So they don't need another person doing that. Why are the hotties dating normal dudes? Well, because, women actually, they don't necessarily need a guy who looks like the male gaze. The women, like the Ryan Gosling, there's a reason why there's the Ryan Gosling memes, Ryan Gosling in the soft sweatshirt. There's lots of, guys, if you look at Hugh Jackman in a women's magazine versus like Hugh Jackman, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right? That's the male gaze Hugh Jackman, right? He's like this is the male gaze Hugh Jackman, and then on the women's magazine, he looks very different, right? Good. It's the two Hughs, you know. This is it's actually a good illustration of male navel gaze, right? If you're like, oh yeah, man, I want to get shredded and ripped and have like, you know, muscles. I want my biceps to have biceps and like, you know, I want my pecs to be like sticking out like 75 inches and like I want to be like I want to have my center of gravity like be like, you know, 2 feet out from me when I stand up. I want to fall over when I stand up. I want to fall over because of how top heavy my muscles are, you know. So that's the male gaze, and then and then on the other side you have Good Housekeeping, Hugh Jackman's recipe for romance. So yeah, you get the soft sweatshirt, you know, no grimacing and growling and, you know, making like you're about to like chew somebody's head off, like you're about to commit mass violence. No Kubrick stare, you know. You know, it's all like, you know, kind expressions and you know, normal, you know, smiley, soft materials, you know, everything not exploding out of everywhere, right? Because you know, the thing is, you know, for you know, in the women's, I mean, I have a whole She-Hulk series on that. It's going back to harkening back to watch the She-Hulk series about, you know, there's a very good, the first episode of She-Hulk is very good for that, right? Women, one of the number one things that, you know, women are going to be concerned about. I mean, I speak on, I mean, obviously Holly has much more experience to speak on this, but, you know, I'm trying to present more as masked today, even though I'm a non-binary / trans / Mahu third gender Native Hawaiian person, which is not either gender. But just, you know, I want to make sure some guys actually hear this and then maybe internalize it, right? But one of the number one things women are worried about, they're not really the more muscles you have, that could be a bad thing, because if you're really muscly and aggressive looking, that signifies that you could be dangerous, you know? And women are surrounded by dangerous people, right? Women are killed by men all the time, right? You have like huge levels of a homicide by male partners killing their girlfriends and wives, right? Women are under threat all day long, every day, right? They're constantly on alert because, and you're not going to realize that as a man because, you know, you never have to deal with that. You'll never have to deal with that, you know? But women are constantly under threat. Like last week I talked about COVID, right? But it's like, men who potentially might be attracted to you are kind of like a zombie apocalypse, you know, where it's like, or it's like COVID, right? Like you know, you want to keep a mask on, keep a shot, social distance, so you don't want to catch this horrible disease, right? But a man who might be attracted to you could start stalking you, could follow you home, could get in your DMs, make problems for you at work, and be a weird creep, could, you know, attack you, verbally assault you, kill you. And the U.S. police solve less than 1% of all rapes, and they don't even investigate less. They investigate less than 5%. And that's not the police do anything, right? And the white Western masculine world is full of men who all in solidarity with each other. Most of them are not willing to do anything for women. They come out and say that out loud. Even the non-white men, like when that black woman a black man had a brick to her side of her head, right? So women have other women's backs, but they're in a world full of male threats, right? It's this whole, you know, that's why there's so many women who are horror fans, because horror movies are like just women's lives every day. And it's relatable, right? It's like, oh my God, how do I survive all of these zombies or these monsters or these creeps with fucking knives? But it's like, not every man has a knife out there, but any man in the world, in the grocery store, right? When you're going, hey, ladies in the Walmart, like what happened to me and Holly the other day. Weird creeps with fedoras, right? You know, just guys in the gym, catcalling at night outside of the bar, right? Like, you know, every man is a potential threat all the time, all day long, every day, right? And so if you are like, you know, looking like the aesthetics of the men who are even more threatening, who are what, toxic, you know, right wing gym bros who like get off on violence against women, talking about violence against women. Oh, all those women are just those freaking women, man. Oh yeah, that woman, you just got to get rid of that woman. Watching Zack Snyder movies that are full of violence against women, like the plethora, the unnecessary extra rape scenes in Watchmen and Sucker Punch, which is all about getting off on violence against women that women lose, even though it's supposed to be about women's empowerment. If you or you're like most of all the hardcore real movies that show lots of, and Game of Thrones before it got soft and it was hardcore, when all the sexual violence and rape and women getting beat up and women getting killed. This is actually a complaint that men have of later Game of Thrones. It got bad when it went soft, right? So if but so when you and that is part of a whole set. People who drive giant trucks, people who hang out and listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, people who watch Rita Jordan Peterson, people who hang out with those groups of people. There's all these semiotics and signifiers that come together. And when the women see a guy that kind of seems like they might be, you got an American flag in bio, Canadian flag in bio, red hat somewhere, right? You got, your muscles look like you spend all the money that your mommy gives to you to buy muscle supplements and extra protein powder and creatine to make those muscles happen, and you don't do the dishes and you don't wash your ass, right? And you eat beef, turmeric, and salt exclusively because Jordan Peterson's daughter told you to, right? Or something like that. Or you go to trucker rallies and you have freedom, patriotism stickers all over the place. Any of those things, when you start signifying those things, the rates of murder, wife beating, and all those things of the police and all those kinds of people way up. So the women see that, right? They see Muscle Man, right? They see Mr. Tough Man. And what they see is dangerous, toxic, gaslighting, debate bro, abuse. They just see all the worst things ever. So you're actually making yourself look more unattractive, right? The more male gaze, which is all action movies, Marvel movies, everything we're talking about, right? The big buff dudes beating each other, action movies, right? Liam Neeson getting his daughter taken by the Russians and just being a hard ass, right? Anything where the main emotion is anger of men and just going around fighting. So the more that you start to look like the male gaze, and you act and you do anything that looks like what the man thinks is a good, attractive, sexy man, right? The more unattractive you're making yourself to women, because all they're seeing is danger, gaslighting, debate bro, annoying, doesn't do the dishes, gonna give me a urinary tract infection with the shit that's all over his ass and perineum. I don't want to see this. I don't want to clean his laundry. Probably doesn't have a job because he's a man. He thinks it's a man's world and we should just all give jobs to every white man, and he doesn't want to work. He wants to put women back in the kitchen and go back to the 1950s. Women don't want any of that. So when you start signifying all those things in any way, women are building up this, they're seeing each one of these little points is a little red flag adding up to a giant swastika. You know what I'm saying? It's a little red flag adding up to a giant picture of Homelander from The Boys. You know what I'm saying? Which most men don't get, actually. A lot of men actually are not getting that Homelander and The Boys are the bad guys. But actually, they actually watch that and they're actually, wow, that's really awesome. Because women get raped and assaulted multiple times in every episode. And that's but men don't get that. Actually, when that, because Hollywood's, it's Hollywood's I cannot watch any episodes of that show because it's I get it's trying to make a point, but the people who are watching that show are not getting the point a lot of the time, right? In fact, the guy who plays Homelander said, "Go play Call of Duty. I voiced it. It's really awesome." Right? If you're playing a lot of Call of Duty, that also suggests that you probably don't have a job, right? Because you think that you're going to be some kind of Twitch streamer and just scream the N-word for money for the rest of your life. Right? Because that's the kind of people, or you're going to sign up for the U.S. military and kill innocent people and do genocide with Israel, right, for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that's what you're going to do, but you're signifying that you're that kind of, you're signifying that you are the opposite of what women want, You're signifying I want to be the guy, and I'm not saying that Wolverine's a bad guy. I know I put Hugh Jackman on the screen, but it's these are the things. What you think? What a lot of men think that women are seeing when you are putting on these clothes, making your body this way, right? Making this face, saying this or that thing, right? You think, oh, I'm asserting dominance. You are showing that you're a dickhead, gaslighting, self-centered prick. You think, oh, I'm showing that, like, these are my positive sexual characteristics. Like, you know, you want this strong, you know, defender. Women see a strong attacker. You know, you think you're going to be a strong defender of women. Women see you're going to be more likely to beat me. That's all they see. They don't actually see that, you know, because that's what they've experienced in their life. You know, like, just because you're some people, you know, just because you're a bigger more musclier guy doesn't mean you're never going to get a date. But you're going to have to, like, work harder in all the other ways to make yourself not seem like the guy on the left. Right? You're going to have to work extra hard. There's like it's kind of like once you throw up any of those red flags, you're going to have to do extra work to, like, no, I'm really not like that. You have to do extra work to prove that you're not like that. At this point in the world, right? At this point in time, women are like have a lot of times just given up, right? As we said last time, 66% of women are in relationships, and most of those relationships, at least half, I think, or more of those relationships are with women having relationships with other women or with non-men. So if you're a man, there's a whole, like, good chunk, maybe half. I don't know if you know how many. If you're just a man, there's a good chunk of women. Certainly in the Western world. I mean, it's like a lot of this is different around the world, but certainly in, like, the U.S. and the North America and in the West in general, if you're a man, you're less likely to find a relationship just for that. So you got to really put even more effort in to prove that because of all the other horrific experience that the women have had with all these other guys, right, who weaponize their incompetence. And the last one I didn't really talk about a lot, but weaponized incompetence, right? Here's a little. I talked about that guy who basically said, "I'm depressed today, so I can't come and help you out. I can't work on your video game. I can't work on the video game that that I would like to be in the video game industry with, because I felt depressed for the last 5 days, and I watched movies, play tabletop RPGs." The thing is, you weren't depressed enough to hang out with your tabletop RPG Shadowrun group and play RPGs for 8 hours. You weren't too, like, that seemed like you're pretty happy there. You know, the thing is, this person was actually hanging out with more people than I was at the time, right? But he's still depressed, right? You watch Netflix for like 8-10 hours, right? You watch like 2 anime series, so you had enough energy to get up and do that, but you don't have enough energy to actually do work. I don't think that. So that's the weaponized incompetence. I don't think this. I'm not dating this person, but I know this weaponized incompetence, right? Which just happens all the time. It's like you're not. Which is like not wanting, basically just like wanting to get out of work and have things done for you, and then, turning, trying to get people to feel sorry for you. You can't do these things, pretending like you can't do these things, right? Actually, and then lying about that what you're doing, right? This is like a pattern that I've seen it. This is one reason why I don't work with a lot of people. Like, I would actually like to work with more people on my games, like Neofeud. I make games like Neofeud and Neofeud 2. And it's hard to make these games by myself. But part of it is like, well, there's multiple reasons. But one of the reasons why is like a lot of the people that I could be working with, I've had like really bad experiences, right? I'm not like, it's kind of like, I'm not like dating men, but it's like I've had to work with a lot of men on games. And especially in the last 10-15 years, what I notice is like there's a lot of people who like might be able to, have interest in and might have some skills, a little bit of some skills in programming and art and these things. But when they start working, when I have to start working with them, I'm like having to like, I feel like I'm pulling teeth all the time. I'm having to carry everything. I'm like, wake up, okay, do the thing. Can you do it? Oh no, I can't. Okay, well, I need that done. It's not done. It's not done. It's not done. Well, at a certain point, right? At a certain point, I'm like, I can't finish Neofeud 2, Terminus Machina, or this other game at the rate that you're working. I just can't do it. Okay, so I'm your friend, It was cool talking about cyberpunk with you, but like I don't think that this working. I don't think that you're programming and then me art and animating and programming and doing lots of other stuff. This is not going to work out because you're, and I don't want to say, well, it's because you're like just, but it's basically because, you're weaponizing your incompetence. You're not applying yourself. I know it sounds like your dad or your grandpa saying that, but like, you're like, and it's like, are you capable? Is it that you're psychologically, you're just trained to be a giant baby? You're just a lazy bum? Do you really have some real psychological condition that is, do you have not workaholism? Do you have like workism where you just can't do work or what? But the thing is, it doesn't matter really exactly what it is, right? It's all those things, right? It's mostly just the men have, many of them, they have been spoiled brats, basically, like their parents, like the white men of the Gen X and Boomer generations. This now it doesn't cut it anymore, right? Now it doesn't cut it anymore, and so you gotta really, and so both in your work, and then also and this is why women are buying 60% of cars, because women are not making more money at the same. If a man gets hired for the same job, the man's still making 10-20% more than the woman in many cases. But the number of women that are getting hired for the gainful employment, because women's masters, PhDs, and accreditations and skills are higher than men's, right? Women are getting more higher paying jobs, and so women are buying 60% of the vehicles, even though the marketing for vehicles is vastly disproportionately marketed towards men. So that's actually kind of a signifier of what's happening, right? You have this, and because the older men, a tiny minority of the older men are managing, designing, and making decisions about what the cars will look like, even though the majority of people that are actually getting them are women. So this is weird. And so weaponized incompetence, though, this one more thing, so this is a guy said, my girlfriend blindsided me by saying that she doesn't want to move in together permanently. Am I the asshole for being upset? So this is something that came up on Reddit. I think it's worth commenting on, because a lot of people it's interesting discussion after this post went viral. People talking about defending one or the other. Anyway, my girlfriend 26F and me 27M were planning on moving in together permanently a couple of months ago. We took over the lease from someone we knew who needed to move but didn't want to pay the penalty for breaking his lease. We were in the process of deciding if we wanted to stay here or move into one of the other places that the property management company has available, because this lease is up soon. But now my girlfriend has said she doesn't want us to move in together permanently, and she's already left where we live now and taken most of her things. She completely blindsided me with this. She says she realized I'm not reliable. She says I don't do enough chores. She never asked me for help, but she thinks I should just need to know when something needs to get done automatically. Her examples were laundry and vacuuming. She also complained that I didn't help her when we watched the sons of friends of ours, both of them and COVID, and they asked me and my girlfriend if we could bring their sons, 6M and 4M, to our place until they were better. Our friends don't have family nearby, so we both agreed. My girlfriend had everything under control, and she never asked me for help or told me she was struggling. If she had, I would have helped without question, but she always had a handle on the chores, and she had things with the boys under control. I'm upset. I also don't think that someone who works from home has it easier than someone who can't work from home. So he works from home, she doesn't. Or that just because she makes more means I should do more. That's where I read those two sentences and I was like, anyways, I was thinking about proposing, and we were planning on permanently moving in together, and she just blindsided me. We went from on track to marriage to this. So a lot of things happening here, right? But okay, so number one, when a guy says, she says she realized I'm not reliable. She said I don't do enough chores. She never asked me for help, but she thinks I should just need to know when something needs to get done automatically. For examples were laundry and vacuuming. She also complained. Okay, so like, you know, it's like obviously we can't see what exactly is happening, but this is like part of the weaponized incompetence, right? Like I was saying earlier. The deliberate feigning of one's incompetence to avoid certain tasks or responsibilities. Strategy is sometimes used by men in relationships to avoid certain chores, housework, or parenting tasks. So like guys will sometimes be like, they'll go shopping and they'll deliberately buy all the wrong things. Like the woman, I need you to get hot dogs and ketchup and baby diapers. And, you know, the guy will buy like, you know, chicken fingers and a toothbrush and like toothpicks, something ridiculous, right? Like purposefully. I mean, sometimes even purposefully, to just be like, not have to be asked to do that necessary work for a household to exist. You know what I'm saying? Weaponized incompetence, also known as strategic incompetence, refers to the strategy sometimes used by men. By continually pretending to be incompetent, they strategically push their partner to stop delegating tasks to them, thus leaving the task up to their partner, creating a disproportionate division of domestic labor. Many people suffering through the ordeal come to therapy feeling like the division of housework or chores between them and their partner isn't equal, and they may see things like, I want my partner to for more help, but I always end up having to explain how to do it or just doing it myself. Anyways, so long story short, like you know, that's weaponized incompetence. And it can happen in a variety of places, but obviously most commonly it is a deal breaker for men seeking a relationship with a women, with women in general. What is the appropriate division of labor in the household, right? Like, you know, it's not like okay, well, I did exactly 4 hours, and I did exactly 8 hours and 36 minutes because I timed my job, and then I timed vacuuming, and this is how it took me exactly 3 minutes and 50 seconds to wash the dishes, and so you have to do exactly 8 hours and 36 minutes or it's unfair and I'm leaving, right? It's not like, it has to be exactly timed out to the second how much labor each person does, right? But like there is like what is like a reasonable amount, and also like people have different abilities, that's like a part of that conversation. But like there is a tendency in men, like it's kind of like the debating thing, right? Where does it go from a productive, good conversation or even discussion into a toxic, not good debate? Because the line is not like a solid, okay, well, once you say this word, now we're in a toxic, masculine, macho debate, dick measuring with my words competition, right? There's not like a line where it goes there, but you can feel the energy changing, right? And you can when you're talking, you can get a sense. It can even change at one point in another, right? But if you have a pattern of constantly, if a woman is constantly feeling like, right, she's having to like justify things and being like talked down to all the time, being condescended to at all times and like very frequently, then the woman is going to be like, I don't want to be in that relationship. I don't want to be in this place, right? And now the women always didn't want to be in a relationship with a white man in the 1950s and 60s, constantly being talked down to, right? Pro tip. Nobody wanted that, actually. Women just had to deal with that and like suck it up and like, suck it up and just, this is what marriage is. Like Holly's mom, was a conservative woman, said like, Holly, marriage is sadness, marriage is suffering, but you just got to suck it up and deal with it because that's what the Lord wants. I mean, that's what the Lord wants, or for the other side, it's like, this is what we have to do for whatever justification, right? But we just got to do this. We just have to do this because that's what life is. Marriage is suffering, and you just got to suffer and put up with it. Now, that's never been good. It's never been just. It's never been right. It wasn't right for indigenous cultures, like in Hawaiian, in the native Hawaiian culture, right? The women don't tolerate anything. My mom actually, that's one way I knew that the U.S. hadn't fully genocided my native Hawaiian mom, because she was approached when she was around 21. There was like a Jehovah's Witness and other Christian groups that came to this the college, or there was like a lot of young 20-somethings in this area, and there was this meetup for all these Christians, and they're like, here, this is what we do in Jehovah's Witness. And one of the Jehovah's Witness women talked to my mom, and the whole Jehovah's Witness mom said, she was like, oh, we believe in Jesus, and it's happiness, and we just want to share the love of our Lord Jesus Christ, and we believe in one man and one woman, blah 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 blah. This is the 1960s, 70s. When was it? 1970, 60s, 70s. And my mom said, oh, but I see this thing about that the woman has to obey and submit to the man. What does that mean? And the white Jehovah's Witness, the Christian American Jehovah's Witness Jehovah's Witness woman said, oh, well, it's just normal, and it's God's will that and it's the West's will that the woman is going to submit to the man. The woman is the servant, and the man, and that's part of God's plan, And my mom was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm out of here. So because that's just not in indigenous culture. Like the women, have their own agency, and they have their own equality, at least equality. And in certain contexts, like in the domestic context, they issue the orders, and then the men, are expected to basically follow her leadership, not because she's like the tyrant or something, but it's like she has knowledge and expertise in those fields, and has a lot of ability, and is coordinating with other women, and is doing a lot of the management decisions, and the men should follow decisions that are being made in that context, because that benefits the collective, right? But that requires you to not live in a capitalist, selfish, individualistic, racist, colonialist, just fundamentally unequal, ableist world like the Western world for the last 2,000 years. But you see, anyway, so that's where the discussions of capitalism, colonialism tie in, because the women make those decisions not because they want to dominate the men, but because they are the our word is kahuna is not the right word, but they are experts, or their specialty is in that, and in managing, and they're managing in a way that will benefit the collective, and the men follow. Okay, now this is time to fish, and then okay, now you need to come and you need to pick up this from the grocery store, and then do this and this, and so men don't have to just follow any order because they just got one order, or they had an order. But but there is a give and take, and the men, in traditional Hawaiian culture, the men also have areas where they kind of specialize, and then there's third gender people, as I said, I'm mahu, so that's we had another specialty area, and but neither the women nor the men nor the third indigenous gender dominate the other for their individual benefit. You know what I'm saying, right? In the same way that if you're, if you have an engineer, then the engineer helps you, right, with the engineering aspects. You have an electrician, right? The electrician says, okay, well, you want to do this and this and this, and don't use that on that socket again, because that's the wrong thing. You listen to the electrician, not because the electrician is trying to exploit your labor and become your king or your slave master, right? You listen to the electrician when the electrician comes to your house and fixes half your house is blacked out, right? You listen to the electrician because the electrician knows what they're talking about. Right, and people get that, but people don't get the rest of the West is outside of basic functional things, and the system the electrician functions is in a capitalist system, working for a capitalist Wall Street owned electrical company. That's a problem, right? But anyway, long story short, so in the household chores, that's kind of a separate thing from what this is talking about, but it is worth going into a little bit, because the way that the work is divided up exactly is not what's important. What's more important is that, again, the approach, right? Even if that friend of mine, if I can't know exactly, maybe you really are just depressed 6 days a week, and then you can only do 1 day of work, and that's okay. And then I'll be like, okay, well, I can't, I don't really have the ability to. I need this work done in X amount of time because we have to move forward with our project here, right? And so then you gotta get, I don't know, you need some special clinical help. But then the thing is, and I got the sense that he was lying, and he's not, in the same way that the man who is weaponizing his incompetence, right, intentionally, right, failing to do the laundry, failing to do intentionally just not doing the dishes, but pretending I don't know, right? The weaponizing the incompetence is the thing that in the beginning it'd be like, okay, well, maybe he just kind of forgot. Women will date a guy and be like, okay, since I am working 8 hours and you work 4 hours, or you're unemployed, boyfriend, right? Since I work 8 hours in an office and I make, $60,000 a year, and I pay all our bills and our rent, and I bought you the car that you're driving, boyfriend, who makes 20,000 or less or nothing, because you're like sometimes employed when you feel like it. That's the case a lot of the time, unfortunately, for many women. So some women are so desperate. Some women have the tragic and horrible condition of terminal straightness, and they have the sad affliction of being attracted to people with to men. I would say I'm being slightly facetious, but not entirely. Then they will willing to not, they're willing to not necessarily date beneath where they are, but they're willing to put up with a lot more. Some of them, not all of them, not most of them actually, put up with more than they would. But they're willing to put up with more problems and more negatives than they might if they were not straight. Let's put it that way. Okay. So if you are, and then but she's okay. Well, I need you to, since you're home, like this guy was home, right? Because he works from home, right? And she works outside the house. She makes more money than him, which is like, if you're, if you can tolerate someone not making, one problem is toxic masculinity is the man will get upset because he's like, I need to be making more money because I need to feel like I'm the provider, like I talked about in the previous stream, and that's its own thing. But if this guy is okay, but there's another problem. Okay, well, so you're not having this toxic masculine like reaction where you're lashing out because she's making more money than you. Okay, but if she's making more money than you and she's doing more work than you, right? Maybe she's working a full-time job and you're working maybe a part-time job from home. If you're home a lot of the time, well, she has to drive to that job and she has to come back. That's that's a lot of hassle, right? She's going to be tired after working full-time and you're working part-time to make all the money that you use to pay your rent, right? And then you're working at home part-time and you're not doing even some of those chores that you could have been doing. I heard this so much, man. I swear. I was working. When I was teaching at the I was teaching a competency-based diploma program, which is basically for 16 to 21-year-olds who had dropped out. They're basically children in terrible situations and then young adults who had dropped out. They're mostly from the very poor, people of color. They call them underserved, at-risk youth, kids from the ghetto is what it basically is, who have deeply troubled households, etc. 16 and pregnant girls a lot of time, and then there's a lot of kids who were, a lot of them in gang behavior and now getting out of it or trying to formerly incarcerated juvenile now teenagers, right? But I remember like when I worked in that job, the women who also taught, it was a hard job, and I taught, also it's kind of like I was like, maybe I'm not as man as I'm not as much remember the women would look at me weird because it's all women, and then there were all women, and then there were some like gay men who taught. Like I think most of the people who did that job were like women or gay men, or like a queer of some kind. And but I was like married to my partner at home, and the women were like, it was all women though at the time, and they would always say things like, I work all day and I don't, and I remember I told them I'm gonna bring chocolates and flowers to my partner Holly when I got home, and I'm gonna go home for lunch and talk to, and I would go home for lunch and talk to my wife. They were like, I don't want to talk to my husband, right? And they're like, I don't want chocolates or flowers or a card or a heart, or I don't want any of that, or poetry. I don't want that from my husband. I don't give a crap about any of that. I just want my husband, when I come home, working all day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. My husband works 3 days a week. He takes out trash, or he has another job. My husband works 3 days a week, less hours per day, less than 8 hours a day each of those days. And when I come home, the dishes aren't done, the laundry's not done, nothing is done. I come home at 7 at night after working like from 7 to like 5 or 6, and they're picking up kids, dropping off kids at sports, and I come home at 7, and he hasn't worked all day. I remember they always this is like, it's like 5. I remember they always would talk about that. I come, and he's like, hasn't even started cooking dinner. He's just been watching TV all day. I come home, he's off Wednesday and Friday. I come home on Wednesday, and I'm like, I'm like tired as hell, and then he's like, he's just goofing off, doing nothing, right? Like, right, weaponized, like that's the weaponized incompetence picture, right? I come home, and the girls cleaned up, and what did the dudes do, right? I come home, and the boys was goofing off. That was so much, and that's why they were like, it's so weird. Like, why are you going home and talking to your wife and you're doing all these things like that? Like, they never had any Valentine's, nothing. Right? They're all like 35, 45, 55-year-old, unhappily married straight women. And they were like, you're really strange. But that's because I wasn't a straight guy. Your relationship is really strange. That's what they say about me and Holly. The way that I would talk about it. But anyways, but long story short, so but that was like the women, all of those women that were in those relationships, right, where they had a guy who was not working very much, and then them picking up and expecting to pick up, right? They were not happy with that, right? They were married. They were married, right? And then a lot of times when they post online about this, when women will, sometimes the straight women will, the ones that are still kind of like stuck in the 1960s, 70s mentality, this patriarchal mentality, they'll be like, they'll be like, oh my God, he's so irritating, he's so annoying, he doesn't do anything. I just come home and he's like gaslight, and he just wants to hang out with his friends, and but it's terrible, and oh my God, marriage is so horrible. Oh, but I love him so much, and he's the best in the world, and oh my God, kisses hearts, right? That always comes at the end, right? But that's all a lie. That we have to say that at the end, because for the straight cis Western patriarchal capitalist world, you're still like, you don't even realize you're in, right? You have to like keep up the appearances so that you look like a happy straight couple on your LinkedIn, in your church, right, in your community, right? Mostly this is like less so for the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha. That's the thing, right? Gen Z and Gen Alpha can't have a couple. Gen Z and Gen Alpha can't have a happy marriage in a house with a lawn, because Gen Z can't afford. If Gen Z put together 10 of their salaries, they couldn't afford a 1-bedroom next to the meth lab above the highway in Vancouver. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, we're not gonna have a we're gonna have a, there's not really, there isn't really like a normal Christian LinkedIn 15-person polycule, because that's how many people. You're 15 is how much you're gonna need to afford one rent with all your salaries nowadays. So it's kind of like, well, I guess we're gonna kind of like eschew all of those. I mean, I don't think that's not the only reason why the younger generations are like eschewing the norms of the nuclear family, but there is an economic component that it is not possible to have a 2-person, 2 or 3 kid family in a household nowadays. Is it economically not viable for all but the most Elon descendantist of Gen Z and Gen Alpha? It's not gonna happen, right? Also, what's up, Big Deal? And also, I saw Grant posted earlier. But anyways, so if that's the kind of thing, right? So if you're working part-time and your girlfriend or your wife is working part-time, or your prospective someone is working full-time, right? And they're doing a lot of work out of the house, that's added work, right? It's added inconvenience and time, because you got to drive to do that, and you got to be in an office surrounded by unmasked, sexually harassing, dickhead white man bosses. And so, but anyways, that's its own thing. But whatever. I mean, just the fact that if you're working, if you're doing part-time and she's doing full-time, like, and especially in that case, if you're not like trying to at least make that up somehow with like, well, I will take on these responsibilities. So there's lots of responsibilities, right? There's childcare responsibilities, like that's one of the men's mentioned. There's at least some friend assistance childcare responsibilities, but they're all, you could have you could be in a relationship where there's children, right? And so childcare responsibilities, there's cooking and cleaning responsibilities, there's like gardening, outdoor responsibilities, there's home maintenance responsibilities, there's the shopping responsibility, right? There's all these other things, right? That are part of the total work that can be done, right? And so if you're a guy, and there are a lot of guys who are either not working or they are working from home in some fashion, right? And so, and if you're not picking up those other things, if you're not picking, like, if you were a guy that was making all the money in the 1960s and 70s, then some women might put up with your dad or your grandpa coming home, right, and expecting to get his foot massaged, not doing any chores, right, and all this stuff. After 8 hours, after work, after leaving in the morning or coming home from your 1950s, 60s middle America job, right, and the wife was doing work at home, and women, like because they didn't have an option except to put up with that guy who came home, right, and massage his feet, do all the cooking and the cleaning, everything else, and like there was, there might have been some financial security in that. I mean, it's still an unjust arrangement, right? And women weren't happy with that, but they might be in a position where they have to put up with that. But if she's going to be working even more than you, right? There is less pressure because of many reasons. Culture has changed. The patriarchy is falling apart. Progressive feminism, all these things are, queer acceptance is coming and is more and more prevalent. And so women don't feel trapped in that situation. So if you're not even gonna, if you're not even gonna try to match it, you're not even contributing economically as much as the girlfriend, and then you're like weaponizing your incompetence, not working. Think about these things reversed, right? Of course, if it was the guy, you would have instantly left, right? Most guys would have instantly have left long ago, right? And so, it's but a lot of guys still kind of think like that's what this man who's posting to "Am I the asshole?" right, is still in that mindset of like, or is, I think part of this is this person either ignorantly or is either just really ignorant of what happened there, or is being disingenuous and wants other men to kind of cheerlead and pat him on the back and say, "Oh no, it's not your fault. It was, it's just she was mean to you and she blindsided you and blah 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 blah." But it's really like, what it seems more like is, it's one of the two things, right? But and so anyways, so she complained that I didn't help her when so if somebody asks you, the thing is, this is another thing, right? So if somebody is asking for a thing, like if you really were serious about the relationship when she's asking you for this help, right, then you would have taken it more seriously. But this is another thing that men will often do, and people who are weaponizing their incompetence and just being deadbeat losers, basically. But that's a very common situation, which is like to just kind of like stop doing things, just, and then make the men will make the woman kind of keep, having to make the demands, so that the man can say, "You are being mean to me," right? And then every time it comes back and be like, what, you never said that, but she actually did ask several times. And the thing is, like, I know multiple guys who have not even always in a romantic relationship, but even just like household roommate situations, right? I know that there's a lot of young non-men and women that I'm just thinking of right now. I don't have time to get all of their receipts, but they're like, I am roommates with these other guys, right? And like, every time I'm asking them, can you please like help with, like, I do all the chores, I do all the cleaning, you guys make a mess in the bathroom, you make a mess in the kitchen, and like, I gotta always do that. Can you like stop making these messes? Can you like get the rent on time at least or something? Can you like, because I'm like, as the woman in this roommate arrangement, this is like really unfair to me. And then the man will just go, well, I don't, you never told me. I'll try my best. And then sometimes they'll get upset, right? They'll be like, come up with a million excuses, right? And then force the woman to go, okay, you know what? Well, that's it. I gotta, and they'll try to take advantage of women as long as they can, right? Lying about, like, being disingenuous and lying about that they just forgot, that they have all these problems. oh, I'm just a broken person. Oh, it's just so hard for me to do this. Oh, and then try to get the woman, because women they're like socialized to, they're socialized by this patriarchal society and unjust society to, immediately jump to sympathy and empathy for the man and feel sorry for him and then do everything and then they kind of like be his mommy, which is what a lot of men want from women is they want their mommy that they can also have sex with, and Holly can confirm that. They want a mommy that will cook and clean, do all the work, pay all their bills. That isn't their literal mom, but they can also fuck. And then they're trying to get that. It's like a lot of women like looking for the dad, and a lot of men are like looking for someone like their mom. But like nowadays, it's definitely like men like are looking for literally a mom. And you're not a child. You can't just play video games all day, jack off, right? And then watch YouTube videos about men getting mad about other women, rate retro video games in the number of drinking horns, and then, watch another 5 YouTube videos, go on Reddit. And then when I come home, you say that you just forgot, or you have X and Y and Z disability. That's why that you don't have, and that's why you can't take out the trash or do basic chores. This is really common. I'm like, it seems like really weird to have to say that, but this is like so common, right? It's so common. It's amazing. And I personally encountered this like multiple times. Again, this is part of why I don't work with a lot of men. I don't even work in games with a lot of men. Not every single one, obviously, but it's very common. It is really sad. It's just it's kind of like like the U.S. opioids, the collapse of the West, like how economically screwed the U.S. actually is. Like half the country's not being malnourished. Like things are way worse than anyone is saying. But there's also this that's part of the worstness. Is that there's this completely unrealistic expectations and behaviors. And most men are not gonna come out and say that, just not gonna come out and just straight say that, because then well, because they're selfish fucking pricks, basically. But that is the case, unfortunately. It's normalized, it's normalized, and so women are talking to each other, women are talking to non-men, and they so this is another thing. If you are a woman and you start dating a man and you move in together, so sometimes he'll be really cool and really upbeat and fun, and he'll seem like, oh yeah, he'll be putting on the best behavior for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a few months, right? And then you move in together, and all of a sudden he becomes like a lump, like a mushroom. He becomes like a paperweight, right? He can put on a good show for a limited time, but once he feels like a lot of men, they feel like, oh, now I've got a good deal. Now I've got my mommy to cook and clean and pay my rent for me, or whatever. While I get to like find myself trying to like write my novel for the 10th year in a row that I haven't written, or trying to make my podcast for the 85th year in a row that isn't going anywhere. Not saying you shouldn't try things, but it's like at a certain point you have to like put in more than 2 hours a day into your YouTube channel or your podcast or your game or your drinking horn, or just sitting around jacking off, watching another anime, and then watching, Blade Runner 2049, and then, watching Netflix, and then playing video games for the other half of the year, And so women are not going to date that. And then if you take go and you get mad and you listen to other men talk about how, well, if we just could reinstate the patriarchy, that would be great. That's not going to help you at all, right? Full disclosure: multiple of the men that I work with on my games have unalived themselves. In fact, that's where it sadly ends. For some, if men can't get what they want from their mommy sex slave or some confluence of them, it goes to a very dark place. That is it's like I don't want that to be the case. It's not good for the world. It's not good for straight women, because they're like, a lot of straight women, I would love to be dating some men, but I cannot cannot be the mommy, emotional labor, physical labor, economic labor, therapist, and unthanked housemaid for men anymore. I just can't do that shit. They're like, they kind of like, they have to, like, they have to, figure out something else. They just like they just don't have sex with men. Straight women just don't have sex with men. They're like, I'll just do something else. I'll be friends with my girlfriend. We'll be friends who live in a house together, and we'll raise children. It's very common, very common. I think it's like 30%. I forget the exact numbers, but it's like 30%. Half of women in relationships are not in relationships with men at this point, and most men are just not in relationships, right? So after like one or two of those, right, and the women have, the 40-year-old, 45-year-old women, they've kicked like 3, 4, 5, 6 of these like nothing, useless guys to the curb already. They're not gonna date anymore, right? The 30. That's why the men who are 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 40, 45, right? They're getting more and more sad because no women at that age have already gone through 3 horrific, weaponized, incompetence, dickhead guys. They're not trying anymore. They're like over that. They're 35. They're like the girl with the short skirt and the long jacket. I made a song about. I have a song I covered that, right? But they're like, I'm a girl in a short skirt and a long jacket, and I'm like, I'm not gonna date any guy. And the thing is, the Cake song was about a guy who wanted a mommy, right? I want a girl with a mind like a diamond. I want a girl who knows what's best. I want a girl with the shoes that cut and eyes that burn, like cigarettes. It's about a guy who wanted a mommy, who does all the work, right? She gets up early and she stays up late. She works all day long and she drives her car that she paid for. Right? She's trading her MG for a white Chrysler LeBaron. She's getting a fancier, better car with the money she made as one of the 62% of women that buy cars, not men. But the thing is that women don't want to date that loser from Reality Bites, played by Ethan Hawke, right? They don't want to date that guy that's 40 now, who's still looking for his mommy. They're like, I will be this girl with the short skirt and the long jacket, and I'll be single, away from y'all clowns. Or I will be the short skirt and long jacket dating another woman. Because the girl with the mind like a diamond and knows what's best and gets up early and stays up late wants another person with a mind like a diamond who knows what's best, who gets up early and stays up late and puts in the work, right? Like, you don't want one person who's on it, who's taking care of things, keeping things running, and puts in all the effort, and then a fucking loser, right? It reverse the situation, right? You wouldn't want that. Men wouldn't want that. Men wouldn't want to have to do all the work and everything and then get nothing back from the other side, right? Right? So how can you expect women to want to put up with that, right? The thing, I know, like, guy. Well, I would never expect women to do all of that. But if you write it all out, right, and we look at it in concrete terms, like we just did, then they're like, well, they do want that. They do want that, and they want to basically gaslight and lie to women until they can get that. That's unfortunately what many men want, and that's why men are lonely. And right, the solution to male, like the last video I made about this, the solution to male loneliness is that the male loneliness is one way of describing refusal to adjust to equality, right? So if you want the girl with the short skirt, long jacket that knows what's best, you better be the guy, right? You better be the guy with the short skirt, long jacket. And I'm not saying you have to be a guy that is not adhering to toxic gender norms, but I mean, you have to be the guy that is like on it, is working hard, is putting in the hours, is keeping things running, is sharp as a tack. You can't be the guy that's like, fucking falling asleep, pretending to be depressed all day, and then actually just is a lazy fuck. You can't be the guy that's off it, not putting in the effort, right? And then you're gonna get the girl that's gonna take care of everything, because that's not equality. Is that equality? That's not equality, right? That's the definition of inequality, right? You are the landlord. You're kind of like the weaponized incompetence landlord, do nothing boss of your wife, right? But you're like the boss that instead of having the CEO office chair, you have your gamer chair that your exploited worker wife bought for you with all of her gainful employment that you don't have, right? And just like we're done with capitalism, we're done with, basement dwelling boss, dickhead losers, and we're done with corner office, oak desk, fancy nameplate bosses, dickhead losers. Both the CEO dude boss and the basement dwelling dude boss are both done. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so I know I'm going like too hardcore now. I was like, Silver Spook, it's too real. Silver Spook is too real. You're setting all of my Silver Spook, you're setting all of my manly beard hairs on fire. I can't do my podcast later today because my beard will not look manly enough when I go talk about how vaccines are killing the world and feminism is cancer. How am I supposed to do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know, put more Miracle Grow on your beard, I guess. Anyways, work hard like the late Dr. Rafat Al-Arir, who dedicated his work to a free Palestine. Indeed. And also, just one last thing. If you don't support free Palestine, you will never get a date. Okay? So you got to figure this out. Okay? Where's that link? I was going to say, and shout out to Dr. Rafat. That was horrible thing that has happened. There is that survey. Where is it? I don't. Holly has it. What is it called? I know Big Tail told me about it. It's the one race. Outside support. Anyways, I can't find it, but long story short, free Palestine, and in fact, the majority of women, I think it's like 60+% of women, 60+% of women support the Palestinians against their genocide by Israel, but it's like 60-something% of men that support Israel, and then don't support Palestine. Okay, so you see the free Palestine, right? Supporting the oppressed and colonized people versus supporting the oppressor. Is 2/3 of that is women supporting the oppressed people in the justified, legitimate struggle against colonial imperialist aggression there, the U.S. backed by Israel and the West backing Israel, and then the oppressor, the men are supporting 2/3 of them supporting the oppressor, the Israelis blowing up all the children in the hospitals that we can see on the screen all the time, right? So so it's you might want to get right on that one too. I mean, among other things, right? Yeah. And also, non-white people support Palestine just about 2/3 disproportionately, and the average white person is supporting Israel about 2/3 disproportionately. Yeah, Big Tail's got it. The Gallup poll on Israel. Anyway, it's already 1:30. So I hope anyway, I make this not because I just want to like get upset, and not because I just want to publicly tar and feather the male gender particularly, but it is to, in the end, is to try to help hopefully some people to recognize the actual reasons why this is the case, that you have so many people being lonely, and that to change it is not to change the male loneliness situation, right, which is a thing that is happening, is a problem that, again, to reiterate that I said last time, and if you want to watch the original video, you can find it on the YouTube channel, minus 2 videos from here. The solution is not that women will change their standards and just if women cannot just simply be pleaded into, begged into, or forced into dating men, right? But you can watch this video. But that women that men need to change themselves and adjust to the equality that is right morally, ethically, and it's just a simple fact of the present that is only becoming more and more real. Which is gender equality means that men will have to, for the first time in the patriarchal centuries upon centuries that it has existed, they will have to put in equal effort to get equal, to have a relationship, period, to have a romantic, sexual, all these other relationships. And so, you really got to get on that. That's the last thing I'll say on that. Anyways, thanks a lot for everybody for watching. You can support us through direct. If you appreciate this education and discussions, consider supporting us through a direct support through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook. You can don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video. That does help, as I should probably say it all the time, but I forgot. You can also support us through Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud and give us ongoing support. You get access to the Silverspook Discord, behind the scenes of what we're working on at the Silverspook Decolonial Anti-Imperialist, Anti-Capitalist Cooperative, Silverspook Cooperative, in the games, in the land back. We recently just made two different kinds of coconut cakes using coconut from the Silverspook Cooperative. So we have one day I'll make a whole Silverspook recipe book, Silverspook cooking show. Don't have time to do all of them, but we made a coconut cake, and then we made a strawberry cake using coconut. So that's interesting. And but you can find out all those things that are happening and also get access to the Discord and the Silverspook University, over 1,000 hours of the content from this channel, categorized by topics, when you become patrons. You can also get Neofeud. Neofeud is on sale, so don't forget it's on sale right now. It is 70% off. It is the Illuminati. It is a cyberpunk, retro cyberpunk adventure game created by myself over the course of 2.5 years.
And instead, they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing
game
something wrong.
that is about my life experiences, but it's also an anti-capitalist.
That's reality, that is.
In a Monkey Island space
Machines are
quest,
second-class citizens.
comedy.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have
In a satirical comedy-based video game, comedy and satire, but also political commentary of the kind that I give on these streams. You can also follow. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux. Oh, forgot to redo the thing. But anyways, you can also get Neofeud and games like Decolonators, which is a game where you fight patriarchal empires and kick their butt in a video game. And there's several other games, and of course, Woman is a book by Holly, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity. And it is not a historical retelling, but a work of fiction that lends a different perspective to what is usually read, and it is a kind of critique of the right-wing Protestant Christianity. You can also follow at Silverspook Games over here, and it's at Silverspook Games at octodon.social and at Silverspook Games at mastodon.social. You can also follow Silverspook Guy on Twitter, and we also have Silverspook Guy and Silverspook Games on Twitter for the games-related stuff. On one other one that I'm gonna be posting more here because I'm thinking I might use the Instagram a bit more than I have been. But you can follow Silverspook Glams, where I post, as I said, I am more mask presenting at this moment, but I am a non-binary / trans / mahu, which is, again, it's a Native Hawaiian gender that doesn't equate to any particular thing in the Western lexicon. And you can follow Silverspook Glams, where I give lots of pro tips to. I'm gonna try to write more actual. I have like a longer. It's like kind of a quasi blog / Silverspook written pieces inside of this Silverspook Glams. So you can follow Silverspook Glams, and it's not just fashion. I also talk about Palestine and decolonization and all kind of stuff, and things happening in Hawaii in this. But I have it's a thirst trapping for people who actually will possibly read what I'm writing. And also just I like taking pictures and doing that kind of thing. But anyways, you can follow that. You can also follow Terminus C. Terminus C is Terminus Cyberstar, which is Terminus Cyberstar is a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games. Then I am the content director and lead writer of this game, and it's a game that's coming soon, and you can follow it there. Holly is, of course, partner, moderator, and sapphic wife and partner. of myself, producer and manager for the Kate Nix show, Twitch stream, and music and variety show. And Holly's also parent caregiver here for 2 Hawaiian children, or Kiki. Writer and educator, and also person who wears masks. We're all wearing masks. You see this? That's we're trying to also, okay, if you wear a mask, which is a normal scientific evidence-based precaution to take against pandemics that we're still in, then that's gonna really increase your chances that you might actually get, increase the possibility that you will get in a relationship with a woman. Because I'll tell you what, they don't want to be with somebody who's spreading pandemics all over the place. We sure as hell don't. Anyways, so don't forget, you can also follow Holly, and thanks to all the people on the list for your support. Without your support, it makes it very difficult for us to keep doing this work. So thanks so much to all these people on the list, and thanks to Big Teal and Holly and Grant for stopping in. And we'll be back in the evening time for more streaming on the Twitch channel. Until next time, don't spend all your mommy, girlfriend's mother money on your Cybertruck or your giant truck, and don't weaponize your incompetence and do all this nasty stuff. Keep your marriage polish. Be excellent to each other. Be equal to each other. And we'll see you later.